Billy Wilder proclaimed William Holden to be the ideal motion picture actor. For almost 4 decades, the handsome, affable Golden Holden was among Hollywood's most durable and engaging stars. He was born William Franklin Beadle, Jr., one of 3 sons to high school teacher Mary Blanche Ball and a chemical fertilizer analyst William Franklin Beadle, head of George W. Gooch Laboratories in Pasadena. His brother Robert became a U.S. Navy fighter pilot and was killed in action in World War II over New Ireland, a Japanese-occupied island in the South Pacific. His father, a keen physical fitness enthusiast, taught young Bill the art of tumbling and boxing. During his days as a student at South Pasadena High, he also became adept at team sports, football, baseball, learning to ride, shoot, and be proficient on piano, clarinet, and drums. To his father's chagrin, Bill had no inclination of following his dad's footsteps, though he did major in chemistry at Pasadena Junior College. A trip to New York and Broadway had set Bill's path firmly on an acting career. He'd already performed in school plays and lent his voice to several radio plays in Los Angeles by the time he was spotted by a Paramount talent scout at the Pasadena Workshop Theater. In 1938, he was offered a 6-month studio contract for a weekly salary of $50. Naturally, the name Beadle had to go. Several alternatives were bandied about, including Randolph Carey and Taylor Randolph, until the head of Paramount's publicity studio settled on the name Holden based on a personal friend who was an associate editor at the LA Times, also named Bill. Having joined Paramount's Golden Circle Club of promising young actors, he was now groomed for stardom. However, it was a loan out to Columbia that secured his breakthrough role. He was the 66th actor to audition for a part as an Italian violinist forced to become a boxer in Golden Boy in 1939. His earlier training proved somewhat beneficial, but it was the self-effacing co-star Barbara Stanwyck who turned out to be the most instrumental in helping him rehearse and overcome his nerves to act alongside her and thespians Lee J. Cobb and Adolphe Menjou. The picture was a minor hit, and Columbia subsequently acquired half his contract.
Joe. Joe!
Papa, you remember Miss Moon, don't you?
Hello, Miss Moon.
Glad to see you again, Mr. Bonaparte.
And this is Anna.
How do, Miss Moon? Hello.
I came down here the day I got back, but you weren't in, and I didn't get a chance to.
That's all right. That's all right. Anna, Joe's going to stay for the dinner tonight.
I don't think I'd better.
Miss Moon, too. You're going to stay, please.
Next, he starred with George Raft and Humphrey Bogart in the Warner Brothers gangster epic Invisible Stripes in 1939, billed below Raft and above Bogart. For the next few years, he continued to play the wholesome guy-next-door type and rookie serviceman in pictures like Our Town in 1940, I Wanted Wings in 1941, and The Fleet's Inn in 1942. His salary had been enhanced, and he's now earning $150 a week. In July 1941, he married 25-year-old actress Brenda Marshall, who commanded 5 times his income. He stayed at Paramount for The Remarkable Andrew in 1942 with Brian Donlevy and made Meet the Stewarts in 1943 at Columbia. He served as a second and then first lieutenant in the United States Army Air Force during World War II, where he acted in training films for the 1st Motion Picture Unit, including Renaissance Pilot in 1943.
She'll be there, and when you feel her in your arms, those 14 months will melt away like a ground haze in the morning sun. Packard A. Cummings, 1st Lieutenant Army Air Forces, dog tag number 0451859. You're headed for home, and Catherine will be waiting.
His first film back from service was Blaze of Noon in 1947, an aviator picture at Paramount directed by John Farrow. He followed it with the romantic comedy Dear Ruth in 1947, and he was one of the many cameos in Variety Girl in 1947. RKO buried him for Rachel and the Stranger in 1948 with Robert Mitchum and Loretta Young. He starred in the 20th Century Fox film Apartment for Peggy in 1948. At Columbia, he starred in film noir The Dark Past in 1948, The Man from Colorado in 1949, and The Father is a Bachelor in 1950. At Paramount, he did another Western, Streets of Laredo, in 1949, and Columbia teamed him with Lucille Ball for Miss Grant Takes Richmond in 1949. His career exploded in the 1950s when Billy Wilder tapped him to play a down-at-heel screenwriter taken in by a faded silent movie star, Gloria Swanson, in Sunset Boulevard. It earned him his first Best Actor Oscar nomination for the role. It was a lucky break because Montgomery Clift was initially cast but backed out of his contract. Swanson later said, "Bill Holden was a man I could have fallen in love with. He was perfection on and off the screen." Billy Wilder commented, "Bill was a complex guy and a totally honorable friend. He was a genuine star, and every woman was in love with him."
Wait a minute, haven't I seen you before? I know your face.
Get out, or shall I call my servant?
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures, used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
I knew there was something wrong.
Holden was reunited with Wilder in Stalag 17 in 1953, for which he won the Academy Award for Best Actor. His acceptance speech was one of the shortest in Oscar history, where he said, "Thank you, thank you."
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
No, I don't sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Maybe just one word? Kaput? Because you're kaput, Price.
Will you get this guy out of my hair so I can go?
Go where? To the commandant's office and tell him where Dunbar is?
Why, I'll kill you for that!
Shut up. Security officer, huh? Always screening everybody. Only who screens you? Great American hero from Cleveland, Ohio, enlisted right after Pearl Harbor. When was Pearl Harbor, Price, or don't you know that?
December 7th, 41.
What time?
6 o'clock. I was having dinner.
6 o'clock in Berlin. They were having lunch in Cleveland.
Holden did his third film with Wilder, Sabrina, in 1954, billed beneath Audrey Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart. Holden and Hepburn became romantically involved during the filming, unbeknownst to Wilder. People on the set told me later that Bill and Audrey were in a relationship and everybody knew. Well, not everybody, because I didn't know. The interactions between Bogart, Hepburn, and Holden were less than pleasant because Bogart had wanted his wife, Lauren Bacall, to play Sabrina. Bogart was not especially friendly toward Hepburn, who had little Hollywood experience. Holden said, "Before I met her, I had a crush on her, and after I met her, just a day later, I felt like we were old friends. I was very protective of her, but not in a possessive way." The relationship didn't last much beyond the completion of the film. Holden, who was at this point dependent on alcohol, said, "I really was in love with Audrey, but she wouldn't marry me." Rumors at the time had it that Hepburn wanted a family, but when Holden told her that he had had a vasectomy and having children was impossible, she moved on. A few months later, she met Mel Ferrar, whom she later married and whom they had a son, John Hepburn Ferrar.
Oh, Sabrina, Sabrina, where have you been all my life?
Right over the garage.
In 1954, he was featured on the cover of Life magazine, and on January 7, 1955, he appeared as a guest star on the I Love Lucy show as himself. The golden run at the box office continued with Love is a Minnie Splendid Thing in 1955 from a best-selling novel with Jennifer Jones, and Picnic in 1955 as a drifter in an adaptation of William Ingles' play with Kim Novak. Picnic was his last film under contract. Probably one of his most widely recognized roles was as Commander Shears in David Lean's Bridge on the River Kwai in 1957 with Alec Guinness. It was a huge commercial success, and his deal was considered to be one of the best for an actor at the time. He received 10% of the gross, which earned him over $2.5 million. However, he stipulated that he should only receive a maximum of $50,000 per year for the film. In 1969, he made a comeback when he starred in director Sam Peckinpah's graphically violent The Western, The Wild Bunch, winning much acclaim. In 1974, he also won a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Actor in a Miniseries or Movie, playing a LAPD street cop in the television film The Blue Knight. He also starred with Paul Newman and Steve McQueen in the critically acclaimed disaster film The Towering Inferno, which became a box office smash and one of the highest-grossing films of his career. 2 years later, he was praised for his Oscar-nominated leading performance in Sidney Lumet's classic Network, 1976.
You're dealing with a man that has primal doubts, Diana. And you've got to cope with it. I'm not some guy discussing male menopause on the Barbara Walters show.
He did his fourth and final film with Wilder with Fedor in 1978 and followed it with Damien Omen 2 in 78. He had a cameo in Escape to Athena where he co-starred with his real-life love Stephanie Powers. He was the best man at the wedding of his friend Ronald Reagan to Nancy Davis in 1952, and even though he was a registered Republican, he didn't really get involved in politics. He had a home in Switzerland but spent a lot of his time in Africa. With the help of his partners, he created the Mount Kenya Game Ranch and inspired the creation of the William Holden Wildlife Foundation. He had one daughter born in 1937 from a relationship with actress Eva Mae Hoffman. He married actress Brenda Marshall from 1941 until 71, and they had two sons, Peter and Scott. He met French actress Capucine in the 60s, and they starred in 2 films together. They reportedly began a 2-year relationship that ended due to his challenges and remained friends until his death. In 1972, he began a 9-year relationship with Stephanie Powers that sparked her interest in animal welfare. After his death, she set up the William Holden Wildlife Foundation in Kenya. Bill Holden died November 12, 1981. He was living in an apartment at Shorecliff Towers located at 535 Ocean Avenue in Santa Monica, California when he passed away. The unfortunate incident occurred after he fell, striking his head, and subsequently bled to death in his apartment on the 4th floor, unit number 433. He was elected top 10 Stars of the Year 6 times, from 1954 to 58 and again in 61, and appeared as 25th on American Film Institute's list of 25 greatest male stars of classic Hollywood cinema. He appeared in 72 movies in a career that spanned 43 years. His star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is located at 1651 Vine Street, and he also has a star on the St. Louis Walk of Fame. His son, Scott Porter Holden, died on January 21, 2005 at the age of 58 due to complications from diabetes, and his ashes were scattered at sea. His only other son, Peter Westfield West Holden, died in June of 2014 at the age of 70, and his ashes were also scattered at sea. His wife, Brenda Marshall, died in Palm Springs in 1992 at the age of 76, and her ashes were scattered at sea. When Barbara Stanwyck received her honorary Oscar at the 1982 Academy Awards, at the end of her acceptance speech, she paid a tribute to Bill.
A few years ago, I stood on the stage with William Holden as a presenter. I loved him very much, and I miss him. He always wished that I would get an Oscar. And so tonight, my golden boy, you got your wish.
He dictated in his will that the Neptune Society cremate him and scatter his ashes in the Pacific Ocean. In accordance with his wishes, no funeral or memorial service was conducted. He was 63 years old.